Hi, this is Edward Troxel. In today's script, we're going to start in part 1 of learning how to do some rendering. In this script, we're going to create the form necessary to choose which renderer we're going to use, and then we're going to add the renderers that are available to us into that screen. Go back and look at the tutorial where we started a new script by using a form, and we're going to do the exact same thing here. So we go to File, New, Project. We're going to start a Windows form application, and let's rename this here. Let's call this JETDV render script. Then we need to go into the properties. I think I'm going to change the assembly name to JETDV render. We can leave the default namespace as that. That'll be okay. I'm going to go ahead and copy this. We need to change this to a class library. Let's go over to debug. We're going to start an external program. So we need to go to Drive C, Program Files, Vegas, Vegas 18, Vegas180.exe, and the command line arguments dash script colon in our assembly name .dll in quotes. So we can close that. Let's go to references. I already have it right here. We select it and click on OK. Then I'm going to come over here, make sure copy local is set to false. Then we're going to come over here and delete program.cs because we don't need that. Then we're going to come in here and view code. Add using script portal.vegas, and I'll come down here, public Vegas, my Vegas. We have to add this here, and then my Vegas equals Vegas. Next, down below, we have to add the entry point. So we'll have our public class entry point. Inside here, we'll have our form, our variable. So that will be private, static, and we're going to have our JETDV render script dot form1. We'll just call that form, and then we call our from Vegas routine. And we create the form, pass Vegas to it, and then we show the form. So now we're back to creating a new script with a form. We are creating the form and we are showing the form. Now all we need to do is get the information that we want to look at in this one, the renderers displayed on the form. So let's look at a couple of things here. First of all, I don't want this title up here to say Form 1. Let's change that to JETDV render script. And you notice that is bigger than the width, so we can make this bigger to match and just make this whatever size we want it to be. Now let's look at all of our controls over here, and we are going to put a combo box over here. This is where we are going to add all of the renderers so that we can choose which one that we want. First thing I'm going to do is come in and I'm going to rename this combo box. So let's come up here to the top and change the name from combo box. I'm going to name this CMB render type, and this will be where we're going to select the render type. So let's put a label up here, and we'll put it beside it here, and we can leave it name label 1, that's fine. And let's change the text of it to be select renderer. So now we'll know what is in this box and we'll know what we're supposed to do with it. So now let's go back into our code and call another routine here that will let us actually add all of the renderers to that box. So let's call find all renderers. So now we need to create another routine, in here called find all renderers. So let's call this public. It's not going to return anything. Find all renderers. I'm also going to set up a couple of arrays up here for us to put the renderers in. There's multiple ways we could store this information, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to create a couple of arrays. I'm going to set up one array for the renderers and then another array for the render templates. So up here, let's create a private, and it's going to be renderer, and it's going to be an array, so we'll put brackets there, and let's just call this a full renderer. That equals a new renderer, and let's allow up to 1,000 of them, so we'll put 999 there. Now we're going to create another one for the templates. So private render template, and let's just call this full template equals new render template, and once again we'll allow 1,000 of them. So this will let us store the actual renderer and the template. Where over here we are simply going to display the name of the renderer and the template. So when we choose it out of this list, we'll come back to these arrays to get the full values of the renderer and the template. Okay, so now let's start filling in all the information. First of all, I'm going to create me an integer so I know how many I found so far. Let's just call that rCount. Because there could be some issues with renders that may or may not work correctly, I'm going to go ahead and put some error catching in here. So let's do a try, and then if there's an error, then we'll do a catch, and the catch would be what you did if you processed that error, so you could display any error messages you wanted to display there. In my case, I'm just going to leave the catch blank at this time. So let's go through the tries, and what we want to do is go through all the renderers that we have. So for each renderer, and I'm just going to call this renderer in myVegas dot renderers. We want to look at every template that's available to us. Once again, just in case there's an issue, let's go ahead and put some error catching in there. So we'll put try, and then we'll add a catch. And now we're going to go through each of the various templates inside that renderer. So for each render template, and let's just call this render template in renderer dot templates. So we're going to look at every template, and now what do we do with it? First of all, I'm going to check to see if it's a valid template. So if render template dot is valid, then we'll process it. We're going to go to our full renderer and our rCount equals the renderer that we're looking at, and then our template, full template, rCount equals the template that we're looking at. And then we're going to add the names of the renderer and the template to that combo box. So cmb render type dot items dot add, and then we're going to add the renderer and the name of, and then let's just put a dash between them, and then plus the render template dot name. So that will add it to the combo box, and then let's increment our counter. So rCount, and then we'll just do a plus plus, which will increment it by 1. After everything's said and done, let's come down to the bottom and let's add in, and this will be if our CMB render type dot selected index is less than 0, then let's go ahead and make sure that we have something selected. So we'll just change the CMB render type dot selected index and set that equal to 0 so that it'll be on the first one. Okay, so now our script is going to pull up the form like it did before. The form is going to have this box on it. Then we're going to call the find all renderers routine, which is going to come through here. We haven't ever set this, so let's change this to say equals 0. That way we have the initial setting of 0. And now we'll go through and increment that as it adds each one to the array and also to the same number in the combo box. So let's compile this and give it a shot. And our build succeeded. So now let's go into Vegas. We'll go to Tools, Scripting, Run Script, and we'll go into our test script folder. This time we're going to go into our JETDV render script, then release and run that DLL. Now as it is loading, it goes through all of the renderers, and we can see that it has first picked the AC3 default template. And if we open the list, we can now scroll down and see these are all of the items that it has selected for us to be able to choose from, which should be every renderer that Vegas has listed. So if we wanted to render to Magix, Internet, 1080p, we could select a template such as this one. So that's how the renderers are added to the screen and how we can keep a list of them so that we can access them later. I would like your input on this as well, because your input will determine how much farther we go with these renderers. The next script we will learn how to do a full render of the entire project, but where we go from there I need your input on, so let me know what you'd like to see. Please sign up at www.jettv.com and subscribe on YouTube to get further notifications on when new videos are presented.